All right, so as I said, welcome. Glad you all came. Rita. Linda, I'm sorry. Where's Rita? They're not here. Okay. Where's Daniel? He's still working again. Huh? All right. All right, so this is our service, kind of general subject laughter. What we found over the years is that everything pertains to everything else, though. So almost everything fits when we have that.
You got it.
Good, all right. Well, believers say sometimes that, if you don't believe in God, if you're an atheist, you shouldn't get so upset. You're just wasting your time. If you think it's an imaginary, then why care? Well, the truth is, of course, atheists do not object to the imaginary. In fact, many of us are big fans of science fiction. We love lots of fictional things. We go to Disneyland, we go to Disney World, and we watch TV shows that are not reality TV, and we watch movies that are not documentaries. But what if a lot of people believed in magic, thought it was real? What if it meant that everyone had to learn charms, spells, and incantations to make sure that things worked out the way they're supposed to? Before you can do anything, somebody, wait, you have to say the special incantation, you have to invoke the magic words. Suppose you had to chant a certain way while you filled up your car with gas or you took a shower. Suppose you had to alternate eating with your left and right hands. There were kind of weird rules like that. And suppose that several times a day, public notice would boom out and you had to stand and jump up and down for 30 seconds just to make the world continue to turn. Of course, you'd have to hire police to be sure that everyone complied with all those kinds of things, because otherwise bad stuff would happen. And after all, it just wouldn't be right. Or what if it was supposed that the Borg are real? What if this was taught to everybody from an early age? What if our whole way of living had to be managed in such a way as to fend off what was believed to be an imminent attack by the Borg? What if our military and billions of dollars had to be devoted to preparing for the dreaded announcement by alien invaders that resistance is futile and developing countermeasures for assimilation? Or what if a lot of people believe that God is real? But, well, you really have to use your imagination to think about what kind of world that would be, right? But now let's turn it around. Given that we know that God isn't real, what about all the religions based on God and all the religious doctrines and traditions that involve this imaginary idea? Considering that Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck don't exist, but that the Walt Disney Company does, and of course has been part of the Dow Jones Industrial Average since 1991, what does it say that religious traditions and churches still exist? Well, it says a lot. And many people have thought and written about this for a very long time. We had a little discussion again about that beforehand for those of us who arrived quite early. At a minimum, of course, it means that religious ideas and traditions have to address some kind of important human needs. And surely this need is not as simple and silly as just needing to believe in the supernatural. Indeed, we did not have science to explain so much of the natural world. Of course, here are our modern temples. I think that's the American Museum in New York City, Smithsonian Air and Space. This is actually the Science Museum in North Carolina somewhere, and of course the Smithsonian on the Mall in Washington, D.C. So there are human needs, beyond those of needing to understand why there are such things as earthquakes and tsunamis and Ebola and skin rashes and solar eclipses. Most notably, of course, there are unpleasant feelings and urges within ourselves that are more challenging to control than the temperature of our tap water. Although it's great to be able to control the temperature of tap water. We take everything about religion and subtract out the supernatural, and some religions really don't have that much supernatural, some have more than others. Religion is really about cultivating human happiness and well-being. Hello, Chrissy. Glad you could make it. Come on. Space right up front here. So, the idea that religions do meet some human needs, I think, is a concession that atheists seldom make and don't like to make, because, of course, there are only too many instances where religion has caused or contributed to human misery, and too many instances of religious beliefs and practices contributing to that. The way most of us talk shows this, because we use the word religion, but we really mean superstition. We really mean bad stuff. But This is a bit like using the word medicine to mean poison, even though historically most medicines have been worthless if not dangerous. George Washington, how many people even know this? You know, he was a big believer in the practice of bloodletting, and when he got sick on the morning of the day that he died, that's the first thing, hey, bleed me, bleed some blood from me. And there's pretty soon several doctors are in there, and it's estimated that probably half of his blood volume was drained away, and that's really what killed him. And so for churches of religion too, the motivations were mostly commendable, but most of the results, of course, deplorable and inexcusable. Well, the Church of Freethought is an effort, and not the only one, to do better. It is, to paraphrase Thomas Paine, an effort to begin the world over again. In Paine's time, of course, the political circumstances were right in a place far from so many mistakes that have been made in Europe, and now in early 21st century America, in the setting of state-church separation being recognized, if not always strictly honored, when people can find and express to one another their ideas on the internet. Where nuns, and I don't mean N-U-N, I mean N-O-N-E-S, the political group, are a growing proportion of the American population, there is an opportunity to recast and reboot, as it were, that's the term that's used now, the project of religion as a human enterprise. And of course, as it always has been, it's a race between reason and unreason. So here are our principles, boiled down as it were, our mission and vision statement, reason, enjoyment, about caring and helping. What it really is about, it's not about gods and life, that what we have is enough. So next month's service is May 1st. And here in this very hotel, in this very room, we're going to talk about being wrong. How does it feel to be wrong, by the way?
I wouldn't know.
Right.
The trouble is, it feels the same as being right. Huh? Because when you're wrong, you don't really realize it until you do, and then you're smart, you're going to fix that. So we're going to talk about that. In May, we've often talked about family-related subjects, and I think this theme we're planning has an obvious relevance to parenting. Isn't that right, Randall? Those of us with kids. Being wrong is a larger problem with the human condition because we're all wrong sometimes, and perhaps all the time wrong about some things. How do we figure it out, though, and how do we overcome? What are the obstacles to learning from our mistakes? So that's what we're going to talk about next month. Please check out our website at churchoffreethought.org. Thanks to Rusty's efforts. There are now several dozens of our sermon lecture items there, lots to read. Other than people writing on infidels, I think we have probably more original material than almost any other atheist-oriented site on the internet. There's also a forum under the services section, and it was suggested that we should include some material from our services there, and I've done that. So you can go on and comment about things, and I've asked Rusty, he assures me there's going to be a way to get kind of notices when other people post, because I don't know about you, but if you participate on online forums, that's kind of a little prompt that sometimes draws you back and make a response or comment. Go to our Facebook page and like us. Sign up for our Twitter feed. The addresses are on the back side of today's bulletin. Hero is supposed to be with our kids today, and I want to, is he there now? Good, all right. I want to emphasize that what our Sunday school teacher does is not just babysitting. Our young freethinkers need food for thought as well, and I think it's really good that we have a smaller number of kids because they can get some individualized attention and talk about what I was telling you about Colby is when we're younger, it's good to have additional ideas, and I'm still younger than some of our members, and I get good ideas about how to interact more effectively in this crazy world we live in. It can be a lot of fun being part caretaker, supervisor, teacher, counselor, and 100% sharing with younger freethinkers. So we alternate this duty, so if you have interest, please sign up with us so we can get you in there to do that one of these Sundays. The next Freethought Book Club is on April 23rd. The location is going to be the same as last month's, the Farina's Winery on Main Street in Grapevine. Again, the information's on the back side of your bulletin. They're reading Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land. So, moving on to humor. It's a very complicated and subject, but a recurrent theme is that someone is wrong about something in a surprising way, which we laugh at. In fact, a psychologist some years ago did a huge study which surveyed hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world, And here's the joke that they rated the funniest. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson go camping. In the middle of the night, Holmes wakes Watson up and says, "Watson, wake up, look up, tell me what you see." "Oh, I see stars, Holmes, it's beautiful. Away from the city lights, beautiful." "What does it mean, Watson?" "Oh, Holmes, it means that each of those stars is a sun like our own, and some of them have planets around them, and some of those almost certainly have living beings living on them." "No, Watson, you idiot! It means someone has stolen our tent." So what's funny about that? Well, Watson was right, and he was wrong. It's a surprise. But notice something else. When you got the joke, it wasn't like adding up some numbers. There's something going on neurologically that's automatic and involuntary. Those of you who laugh, it's not like you decided to laugh, it just came out. Humor and laughter show us that our behavior is not under continual, conscious, rational control. People sometimes say when it's called to their attention that they're not smiling, my kids are like this, "Well, there's nothing to smile about." But when you do smile, and especially when we laugh, it's not as if there is some reasoning process going on. "Oh, here's something that is worth smiling or laughing about, so now I will smile or laugh." It doesn't happen that way. In fact, there's a difference between fake smiling and real smiling. But at least if you force a smile, you get a little bit of a happy feeling. Try that, just make a smile. It does make you feel kind of happy to do it. But fake laughing, I don't know how those actors, how the actors and actresses do that. It's not the same. Sometimes it's quite difficult to control yourself when you're laughing, no? And let's just watch a little short video here. This is Anderson Cooper, newscaster, and at the end of his broadcast, they often have this thing called Ridiculous. They talk about something funny. This particular one, he was talking about Dingus Day, which is like an ethnic holiday out in Pennsylvania or someplace. And they have all kinds of odd things that they do. They just call it Dingus Day. I'm not sure how that is, but it is. I'm not going to let you do it. I'm sorry. It's really so stupid. Just gotta let it out. Just gotta let it out. Did you know that there's even a kind of laughing epilepsy? Yeah, there's a type of epilepsy characterized by laughing. And there have actually been episodes of laughing fits where, and this is the other thing, it's infectious, right? How many of you found yourself laughing just because, you know, why? You didn't even see the part that he's laughing about, this Dingus Day thing. So, you know, this ROFLMAO, again, not voluntary behavior. And it's kind of funny, you know, if you're rolling on the floor laughing, kind of sounds like holy rollers. That's where the term holy rollers comes from. In fact, there is a kind of holy laughter where people have laughing fits. You know, it's set by the Spirit of God. And of course, why do they call them Quakers and Shakers? Because that's what they would do. They have these fits. So it's definitely plays into religion. Are humans the only animals that laugh? And it seems that we are, at least in the way that we laugh. And this has to do with our ability to speak and also our bipedalism. We walk around on two legs, and so our upper bodies are free. Not only we use our hands to do things, but our breathing does not have to be subject to the constraints of other animals that are run on four legs. They have to support their weight. Their breathing, I mean, breathing is a pretty darn important thing. But by walking on two legs, we are neurologically in control of our breathing. That's how we can speak. That's why we can speak. Because unlike every other animal, we don't have those constraints, except we'll get to an exception in a minute. So our breathing is versatile, and even the part of our spinal cords that control the neck, arms, and torso is larger in us versus our closest living relatives, the chimpanzees. So we can control our exhalation and shape them into words. But before that, even before language probably came laughing. And of course, it's a characteristic, ha 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 ha, hee hee hee, ho 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 ho. But nobody goes, hee ho ha hee ha. It's just an automatic, that is the natural, stereotypical human song that we make without even thinking about it. It's cross-cultural, you can go anywhere in the world, and people laugh, and it sounds pretty much the same. The linkage between neurological control of breathing makes sense too if you think about it. Birds, which are also bipedal, are the great singers in the animal kingdom, although they obviously have a very different anatomy. And what else is whales, which started out as quadrupeds, went into the ocean. They too don't have any constraints on their breathing because they don't have to hold themselves up with their front flippers. And of course, we've all heard these long and complex recordings of whale song. Chimps and other mammals laugh, but not as we do. Chimps laugh with a panting kind of sound with the breath going in and out rapidly. That's a chimpanzee laugh. And rats, it turns out, make a high pitch, which is outside the range of ordinary human hearing. They make a chirping sound during rough and tumble play. One researcher actually found that rats make this sound when tickled. They decided to tickle the rats and see what would happen.
As we have listened to animals playing, we have heard what appear to be the sounds of laughter. And we studied these for a couple of years without quite understanding that this might be laughter. And then one day we decided to tickle some animals. And we realized that we had to look at the sounds at a very different register than we can hear. So we obtained these transducers that are called bat detectors. They can bring very high frequencies down to our auditory range. And when we did this and we listened in, we could tickle animals and generate a lot of vocal activity that appeared to be laughter. These animals would begin to enjoy our company, and they would start to play with our hands, and wherever we would put our hands, they would follow it. And when we tested these animals to ask whether they were enjoying this kind of activity, the unambiguous answer was yes.
You watch the early part, you think, what are they doing to these rats? They're torturing them. You know, like Anderson Cooper says, oh, there's torture. And actually, you saw the rat following their hand around, trying to play. So that seems to be characteristic of mammals, at least. And tickle is another large and interesting subject. Some people are more ticklish than others. It's not understood why that is. Maybe genetic, maybe not. And tickle has something to do with the important ability to sense when something is touching you that is not you. Something crawling up your back, it's obviously very important that you respond to that. It could be a threat. And it's well known, for example, though, that you can't tickle yourself. So there's some kind of auto-sensing system neurologically. But on the other hand, if you're walking through the woods and a branch brushes against you, you don't laugh at that. That's not a tickle. Social laughter, and it is almost exclusively a social activity, has also been studied as behavior without regard to what it's related to. And what I found the most interesting in looking at this material, and I always study for what we're going to talk about, there are clear gender differences that have been identified. Here's a table that shows the percent of the time that members of a pair of interacting people laugh, where S is the speaker, and A is the audience, so two people, and they just track who is speaking, who is responding. And the most interesting thing about this is the gender difference. The subscripts show whether the F is the female speaker, AM is the male speaker, And look at these numbers here. The largest percent of the time when the speaker is laughing is 88% of the time when the speaker is female and the audience is male. But this is also exactly the situation where the audience laughs the least. The men are only laughing 39% of the time. On the other hand, the listener laughs the most, 71% here, when the speaker is male and the audience, the listener, is female. Of course, these figures are contaminated because people have done subsequent studies which show that you have to adjust for the social hierarchy. Again, it's a social activity and it's an expression or manifestation of social relationships. That is, it's also been observed that the boss laughs less and the underlings laugh more. It's not the underlings that make the boss laugh, at least when the boss tells the joke, and it's not even conscious. I noticed in college, and some of you may think of similar experiences, when the famous Nobel Prize winning professor is giving the lecture and says something, it's funnier than if the person next to me says it. It was hilarious. Everybody burst out laughing. And it sounds like a power game, and it would make sense that among humans such things would be going on, but they're things that come naturally without even thinking about it. And that may have to do also with why the ancients did not think much of laughter. Oh, I know, there were Greek playwrights that wrote comedies, but it turns out those were only performed on special occasions, notably at the time of holiday events dedicated to Dionysus and Demeter, when it was okay for the social roles to be temporarily loosened. Some of the early Christian leaders condemned laughter in no uncertain terms, but they were really just following, in fairness, the people like the Pythagoreans before them. They also condemned laughter, and in fact it was said that Pythagoras never laughed, not even once. Now back in those days, except within the times and places where it was allowed, if the emperor overheard some laughter and thought it might be at his expense, well, we know what might happen. He would react violently, and maybe this is one way to make sense of Voltaire's observation here. And if you think about those gender differences again, maybe this plays into why people readily accept that God is a man. You could easily think about that, I think, the whole rest of the week. Think about it. You'll get it in a minute. Perhaps ancient peoples had fewer reasons to laugh, not just because they had fewer comforts, because after all, laughing may be a good thing to do when you have few comforts. But there are more ways to laugh now than there ever used to be. How many have heard of Buster Keaton? Yeah. Oh, okay, so yeah, well, been around a while, you're going to have heard of him. But here's some of what he did in the early part of the 20th century, in the era of silent films. And by the way, he hated it when his producers even put subtitles on what he was doing, because he wanted it all to be very clear from what people would see. And also I found this out about it. Quote, both of Keaton's sons were baptized as Catholics, even though Keaton himself had no use for religion, his older son would recall. He never had a religion and avoided church whenever possible. That's from a book about Buster Keaton. Now remember as you watch this, that this is long before Woody Allen and Mel Brooks and our modern comedies. Let me get the big screen. Hang on a second. Going back to the beginning.
It's a holiday today, the wedding of the painted star. It's a jolly day, the news is spreading all around the ball. Red Riding Hood, Buster Brown, the jumping jack jumped in around.
You know, it's supposed to keep young legs.
No, in fact, he was known as the stone-faced comic, because that was part of his shtick. He was completely serious, and of course, maybe made that easier for people to laugh. Also, you know, it's been less than 100 years since Bugs Bunny and other popular cartoon characters appeared. Did you know that Bugs Bunny, Tweety Bird, Yosemite Sam, Porky Pig, Woody Woodpecker, and dozens of others were all voiced by the same guy? How many knew that? Mel Blanc was his name. He died in 1989. What do you think they put on his tombstone? That's all, folks. That's right. So here he is with Jack Benny on the Johnny Carson show.
Rochester, get the Maxwell started, because I want to leave. And Mel would be the Maxwell. Gee, you ought to have a mic right near you. But we can drop this down.
Can you drop this down a
Put it in
little
the
bit?
picture, don't worry. So I said, get Rochester, get the Maxwell started. And he would go out, and you would hear the Maxwell, and this would be it. But Maxwell still sounds like that. At the studio audience used to fall down from laughter just watching Mel. What are you trying to tell us? The English horse. Oh, how they try to catch one. Wait, you've got to hear this. You know, we used to do weeks of westerns called Buck Benny Rides Again. Right. Andy Devine. So we'd have a horse. Andy Devine would be on it, call me Buck. And everything. So he would do the horses. So first do just the horse, the whinny. That's right. Now, one day my writers and I got together and we said, let's play a dirty trick on Mel Blanc and see what he does at rehearsal. He must comment on it. So we said, let's write in an English horse. For no reason. Now we thought certainly he must say to us, what the hell does this mean, an English horse? He never said a word to us, never opened his mouth. When it came time to do the English horse, this is what he did. We didn't even know it. Never said a word to us. Just did it. Just did it. That is great. What else did we do? Yeah.
The Mexican, yes, you used to do the Mexican.
Always the Mexican routine. And it always went the same way, and people screamed at the same things. And I would see him, he'd be a Mexican. Let's say I'd be at a railroad station.
You know the routine you used to do when you did the Treasure of the Sierra Madre? And you kept saying, see?
Yeah, that's it. That's the routine. So I would say, I'd go up to him and I'd say, pardon me, are you leaving for Mexico City?
See?
Is your train late?
See?
Have you been waiting here a long time?
See?
What's your name?
Sign.
Size? Is friend of yours sitting with you?
See?
Your sister?
See?
I'm afraid to ask this next one. What's her name?
Sue?
Sue? Oh, what else? Where'd we go from there? Oh, yeah, oh, this one. Finally, I said to her, what thing, this wasn't even the scratch. I said, what does she do for a living?
So?
So, baby. Oh, look at this.
How are we doing on time, by the way?
11:10.
Okay. I still want to have Lee up here. Lee actually brought this to my attention. There's a place on the internet called Babylon Bee at babylonbee.com. Lee, is it like a Christian humor site, or is it?
It was on a Christian Friends of Mine Facebook page. I didn't look to see what it was. I just read it.
Yeah. Somebody was talking earlier about Joel Osteen, and this is, I guess, is a similar guy, Rob Bell, who I'd never heard about him before, but apparently Time Magazine said he's one of the 100 most influential people in the world. And apparently he's somebody who's kind of watered down the Christian message or kind of broadened it to the point of, who knows. But anyways, this is from the Babylon Bee, Hollywood, California. In a bold declaration, Rob Bell has announced to the world that he firmly believes something about something. I believe things about things. I'm for things. I have a clear conviction from somewhere that my mission here is to spread things about something, he declared on a recent Soul to Soul segment of Oprah's popular Super Soul Sunday feature. I affirm things. The pensive and confident Bell continued after a long pause. I affirm things about things. I affirm all things that have to do with things, and things are important. Some things are true. Bell's shockingly clear statements have come after years of criticism for his ambiguous theological beliefs and have seemingly caught his detractors flat-footed, as there have been no successful rebuttals of any of his points by any of his notable critics. And this is on there too. Raqqa, Syria. In an effort to appeal to those seeking some kind of spiritual significance in their lives, a large group within the Islamic State has begun a push to become more relevant and seeker-sensitive by watering down their traditionally harsh message. The movement will attempt to appeal more to seekers by offering coffee, giveaways, and relevant video clips at a number of planned community events, instead of just running with their usual murderous message of death and destruction. It's not that we don't believe our caliphate is destined to crush all who oppose Islam. We do, most assuredly, authentically unmasked ISIS insider Tariq al-Hassan told reporters, but we just feel we need to engage our culture in a way that speaks to their felt needs, rather than lopping their heads off or shooting them in the chest at the first sign of opposition. ISIS meetings within the new seeker-sensitive movement feel less like a radical terrorist cells working themselves up into a furor, and more like a laid-back meeting at a local halal coffee shop. Potential new members will find themselves offered swag such as trucker hats, coffee mugs, and Muhammad is my homeboy team t-shirts, while sipping lattes and listening to messages of love and acceptance in the hip, modern atmosphere. Gone are the public executions traditionally associated with such get-togethers, and in their place are short, practical messages, humorous life observations, and down-to-earth cell leaders who strive to be transparent and real with their followers. When asked if, despite their softened message, the group still confirms that submitting to Islam is the only way to Allah, al-Hassan refused to be pinned down. We're all on a journey together, and maybe slaughtering infidels by the thousands is right to me, but is it right for you? That's a question only you and Allah can answer together. So it's a site that has a bunch of stuff like that. You can go check it out. Babylon Bee, kind of like The Onion in a way. So Lee's going to talk next. Will you explain what this is, Lee?
That was in 2005. I was preaching.
Has died, and the operator. Okay, so don't get excited. Calm down. First of all, let's make sure he's dead. He says, "Okay." There's a little silence, then the gunshot is heard. He's back in the line. Okay, now what? Anybody else got some jokes or other comments? You know, this is a good time to talk about what you thought about today's service. There's just so much. I would recommend, there's a book called Ha, H-A exclamation point, by Scott Weems, which is very good on the subject of humor, and then the other one I read was Laughter. There's several others as well, so It's really interesting, all the stuff that's out there. It's a huge subject. We're going to have more to talk about next year in April. One of these years, the service will fall on April 1st, so that'll be fun too. Anybody have any comment? How many of you tried root beer? Yeah, good. Colby tried it. Taylor brought the root beer.
Taylor.
You're all just stunned? All right. Well, we're really glad you came. We do actually have some more slides. I want to remind you that Freethought is not free. We do pay for the room. There's cost connected with the website and really, everything we do, although none of us get paid. This is a labor of love, and we wouldn't be doing it unless we thought it was important. And we're so glad, especially those of you who are newcomers, to come and find us. And hopefully we will make you our friend, and you will make us your friends. There are some reasons to give us your money, but the big one is we're doing together what none of us can do on our own. If you sit home reading a book or surfing the internet, you don't have that interaction with other people. And we are social animals, and it's important that we get with that. Not for the purpose of rolling around the floor, praising God and all this sort of silly stuff, but to really think about what's important in our lives. So help us promote your values, and as Gandhi put it, demonstrate your commitment by being the future that you wish to see. Next month, we're going to talk about being wrong, what to do about that, and lots of interesting things about being wrong. There's a TED Talk by a lady named Catherine Schultz, who's a journalist who wrote a book, but there's other books also. In fact, there's a great book called Mistakes Were Made But Not By Me. So if you want to read up ahead of time, it's a good book, and it talks about our reluctance to admit that we're wrong and our reluctance to change our ways, and that really feeds into a lot of things that people believe about religion. They're not going to question their beliefs, and of course all the believers want us to question our beliefs, but as it's explained in the bulletin today, let's keep the focus on the questions that matter and not the questions that just continually get people bogged down in theology. So, and we just had Easter, and of course this article that I'm writing about showed up on Holy Saturday. How many, by the way, had a Good Friday? Every Friday is good, right? If you're an unbeliever, every Friday is good?
I didn't see as many April Fool's jokes or pranks this year from companies. I don't know if anybody saw one that I missed. What did Google do?
What was the archive button?
The archive button?
But they took it down before Dallas even woke up.
Oh.
Somebody was like, so the button supposedly, and I didn't even get to see it, but supposedly they changed the Google archive button to insert a picture, and somebody was sending an email about funeral arrangements, and that picture popped up as part of the funeral arrangements for their daughter. It was a little bit inappropriate, so they took it down real fast.
Yeah, all right. Well, anyways, everything, all the humor things that have come out that we missed, we can talk about next year too, because usually those videos are easy to get at that time. But anyways, go and laugh, and do think about that business I was telling you about why everybody accepts that God is male, given what you learned here about how women, in fact, the interesting other gender difference is that women look for guys, their number one thing is a guy with a sense of humor. Whereas a guy, that's number 3, they want intelligence and good looks ahead of sense of humor. So, but women want a sense of humor, so.
There's a Alanis Morissette.
True. There's a what?
Alanis Morissette.
Oh, okay, I'm not familiar with that.
You're a former Catholic, you haven't seen Dogma?
No.
Oh,
I
no.
guess I've got one down on my list. Anyways, we're gonna go get together next at Jason's, which is over on MacArthur Boulevard. So in order to get there, you can just follow one of us that's going there. We're gonna be packing up our things and getting going, but basically what happens is you go on, you exit the parking lot here.
It was handing out like, it wasn't coal, I think it was like willow things, yeah, switches to be able to spank the kids. So it was like, I mean, a whole different thing from like the United States where it's all commercial and it's all, like you said, whether it's good or bad, I mean, the kids are getting the stuff. So I mean, it was a real delineation.
Some of those traditions extended into my childhood, back in the 50s, 60s, because, I remember by my parents being told, but they weren't serious, but to say, oh, well, if you're bad, Santa's going to bring you switches, and so While I got the mic here, there's something that has occurred to me. And I don't mind naming names since this is not on the internet. But for 2 years, oh, that's right. Oops, maybe I better not. Well, there was a company, it wasn't an oil company, it was related to producing oil. I'll just say that. 2 years in a row, they used me for their big company parties. Well, apparently the CEO of this deal, who apparently essentially owns it and runs it, fundamentalist, go to the party and there's no doubt. I mean, this guy, it was like a church service. It was like a Baptist church service. I mean, they did everything but call up people to the front, And to me, that would drive me crazy if I had to work there. This is nuts. But, I mean, all this protestation of his religiosity. There was one kid that sat on my lap, son of one of the employees of this company. I asked him what he wanted for Christmas.
Is that the one that was 400 pounds?
No, he was a skinny little kid. And it almost chokes me up thinking of this. This kid sincerely asked for money for his parents for groceries. I mean, this guy is he's supposed to be, you would think, if you believe their propaganda, that, all this religiosity would translate into his being very generous. But obviously he doesn't pay his people enough for them to have a living wage to buy groceries with. I mean, what kid asks for groceries? When they sit on Santa's lap, this is the only time that's ever happened to me. So anyway, that's the end of my story.
Anyone else have any Christmas-related comments? Actually, we all sang Merry Christmas to each other, but if you want to say Merry Christmas again. I want to also take this opportunity to indicate that we have some people in the church who've been very, very good this past year. And there's never any way that we can compensate them for that. All of our volunteers work without compensation. But nevertheless, Santa Claus has something for them. Santa Claus has something for them. How many went to see Hitchens debate? You went. Okay. Anybody else go to see Hitchens debate? Who is it? Dembski.
In Plano?
Dembski, I call him, yeah.
I watched one, yeah.
Well, Christopher Hitchens, of course, churned out a number of books. This is one of his more lately books, The Portable Atheist. I won't say it's a Bible, but it's a compilation of a lot of really key, interesting, and if you're going to be an unbeliever, stuff that would be good to be familiar with. There are selections in here from Jan Hersey, Richard Dawkins, people that we've heard of that are contemporary and alive, and also things in here from David Hume, a Scottish philosopher who wrote a whole book about how ridiculous it would be to believe in miracles, what it would take to actually believe in miracles. Also Lucretius, going back to ancient times, who wrote On the Nature of Things, De Rerum Natura. And he took all sorts of fascinating lines of argument to talk about back then, before we even knew all the things we know today, as to why it was unreasonable to believe in gods. So I want to make sure that each one of several, and I'm not discounting the contributions of anybody else either, but our band members certainly, you want to pass these out? Four members of the band who showed up, and Ed's not here, so he'll have to wait. So Kevin and Kathy Smith, Scott Williams, and Jay Purrington, we appreciate so much everything you do above and beyond. I mean, just think, they schlep all this stuff in here every month, play a few songs, and go home. It makes a big difference. John Hendricks has been with the church almost forever and schleps all this other stuff in here, keeps it in his garage. I hope you find this book a good read. John Goche, who's our videographer here in the back of the room. He's been recording. Barnick back in the corner here, who's been doing the welcoming and the name tags and, really just kind of helping make sure things get checked in well.
All that greetings experience is working wonders.
Merlin Michaud is not, you don't see him, he has presented, you don't see him too much, but he has been really a stalwart, generous, regular contributor to the church, and we so appreciate that. And Leonard Greer, same thing. Leonard, you have really, your continued generous support of the church is so much appreciated.
Well, thank you. If you're going to honor me for my pittance, if there's a heaven, certainly it needs to be a super heaven with people like Dr. Gorski and the band and the convention.
I think I must be forgetting somebody else.
Something about themselves.
Oh, well, Santa Claus. We don't usually think about giving presents to Santa.
There'll be a little something extra.
Oh, good. And Cash Foley, who we want to see more of in the coming year, but he did a fantastic job earlier this year of rescuing our website from near oblivion, and has presented in the past. We so much appreciate everything that you've done. And with that, we have a closing musical selection from our wonderful band, the Faithless Companions, and then we'll adjourn and go get some good eats at the Golden Corral. While they're getting set up, okay, we already did like Santa Claus. While they're getting going here, remember these rainbow-colored boxes in the back of the room, and there's another one on the table outside. Desperately need our financial support.
And they normally.
And by the way, none of these gifts came out of any of the contributions. That is completely separate. Nothing you give is being frittered away or used to pay me and people that are doing the work here. Reasons to give us your money, we're doing together what really none of us can do on our own. Help us prepare the ground for the future of Freethought. Yeah, that's good, a little accompanying music. And why else should you give us money? Because it's a way for you to demonstrate your commitment and be the future you wish to see. I don't know really hardly any other place in town where anybody can come in and find out about Freethought and what it is, not just to be an atheist, but the reasons and justification. And if you didn't get one of these books, go out and buy it. It's not that expensive, and it's a wonderful selection. It needs to be in your library. And after music, then we'll be meeting again on January 2nd.
All right, this song is by Frank Losser, first recorded back in the 40s. A lot of you are probably familiar with it because it came out in a recent movie that I consider Will Ferrell's best movie because he didn't show any body parts in it. It's like face, hands, legs, arms. It's called Baby It's Cold Outside.
I really can't stay.
Baby, it's cold outside.
I've got to go away.
Baby, it's cold outside.
This evening has been so very nice.
I'll hold your hands, they're just like
My mother will start to worry.
What's your
My father will be pacing the floor.
Listen to the fireplace
So
roar.
really I'd better scurry.
Don't go.
Or maybe just a half a drink more. The neighbors might
Baby, it's
think,
bad out there.
say, what's in that drink?
No cabs to be had out there.
I wish that I knew
How shall I start?
to break this
I'll take your
spell.
hat, your hair,
I ought to say no, no, no,
mind if
sir.
I'm moving?
At least I'm gonna say that I
What's the
tried.
use in hurting my
I
pride?
really can't stay. Oh, but it's cold outside.
got below? She's in a break.
I don't know. I simply must go.
Baby, it's cold outside.
The answer is no.
Baby, it's cold outside.
The welcome has
Lucky that you
been
dropped
so
in.
very warm.
Look out the window and that's
My sister will be suspicious.
Look
My brother will be sad at the door.
drop a bush.
My maiden aunt's mind is vicious. Or maybe just a cigarette more. I got to get home.
Maybe you'll freeze out there.
Hey, lend me a comb.
It's up to your knees out there.
You've really been grand, but don't you see? There's bound to be talk tomorrow. At least there will be plenty in flight. I really can't
get over that old doubt.
Baby, it's cold outside. Now, see what happens when it's cold outside is what I see 3 up back there in the back of the room. Congratulations. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thanks for coming, everyone. That's the main way you help the church is by showing up. Do give us, be as generous as you can with helping us meet our expenses. And let's see you at the Golden Corral. They have a wide variety of things. It's kind of hard to mess up chicken, salad, and fresh fruits and vegetables. Bill was telling me how, as a vegan, he can find what he likes there. If you don't know how to get there, talk to one of us, follow one of us. I'm going to be going there. But first, we have to get all the stuff cleared up. I don't know how much the help the band needs, but as they say, many hands make short work. So if you don't need to rush out somewhere, come on and give us a hand tearing up the tape here and putting the wires away. Thanks so much, and see you at Golden Corral, where we can talk more about these and other things. See you next month, too. Thanks.